So recently I've gotten quite a few DMs on my Instagram about what life at Oxford was really like, my course, the workload, social life, all that good stuff. So today I'm going to be answering 66 of the questions that you guys have sent in about Oxford. And if I've missed any or you have any new questions, then send me a DM on Instagram or just comment down below on this video and I'll make another video in a short while answering all of those. But yeah, let's get to it. So the first question people asked me was, how would you describe Oxford in 3 words? It's a bit tricky, but the 3 words I think that sum it up well are, it's pretty iconic, it's definitely a bubble, and excellence. Okay, so for the next question, what's the most surprising part about going to Oxford? I think the most surprising part about going to Oxford is probably how everyone has so much time to, 1, just be great at their subject and super passionate about the subject, but 2, also just have time to do other really cool things like writing articles, running fashion shows, or just organizing events. What you do realize is that although everyone is a calendar wizard and has time scheduled everything, on the surface of things, everyone looks like they're managing and keeping up to speed with every commitment that they have going on. But under the surface, everyone is just pedaling to stay on top of the workload and other commitments. But so are you. So I guess it makes sense. Okay, next question. Do you feel like all socioeconomic classes are represented in Oxford's student body? So the way I'd answer this is probably less than in my secondary school in the UK, where there was just a wider range of socioeconomic classes. But then again, probably more than in my schools in Croatia or Dubai, which weren't as diverse socioeconomically. Okay, next question. How often did you see the president of Oxford? So I'd say I probably saw her only twice during my degree. Once was just on the street outside her office. She was wearing this full blue suit and looked pretty cool. And then the second time was when I was graduating. She was holding the ceremony. Is your university academically competitive and do you guys help each other out? So I studied engineering. For engineering, it's a bit different because you're not all doing the same combinations of subjects in the 3rd and 4th year, but for the 1st and 2nd year, you are. But throughout the entire degree, the mentality within engineering is everyone against the exam, rather than seeing other people on your course as competitors or people you need to get better grades than. So yeah, somehow the students that do engineering have a very healthy approach to helping others. I think this is generally quite present in all the sciences where solutions are available for some things. And so it's not important to get the right stuff, but just understanding things is what's the tricky part. But everyone's there to help each other. And so many people have time to help you. So that's just great. But I know that in some other subjects, there is a bit more competition within the actual cohort, which gets a bit unhealthy. I've seen a lot of drama about some subjects, but for engineering, everyone's super helpful and just really nice. Okay, do most graduates leave Oxford with jobs? The short answer is yes. I'd say almost 90% of students have a job lined up by the middle of their final year at Oxford. And this is pretty unusual, I'd say, for most other universities. But yeah, most people do have these crazy jobs just lined up straight after university. And it's quite unnerving if you're one of those people that doesn't necessarily want to go into a job, but having all of these people around you that have crazy offers for jobs with just huge salaries and very high reputations. It definitely is a thing at Oxford that a lot of people go straight into very good jobs. But again, not being part of that for me was a little tricky at the start. But then you realize that at Oxford, although you all start from the same place, your paths by the end of the degree are just so varied and so different. So there's no real point in comparing to others because everyone's just on a different path, a different pace. If you could change one thing about Oxford, what would it be? So for engineering specifically, I would change the length of the course. I would say that I'm not the quickest learner. And so if this course was maybe 6 years long, I would love it. I would sign that contract immediately for 6 years instead of 4, because it would just give more time to absorb the material better, to really understand things, rather than just working through it quickly and just getting it done, doing the exam, and then moving on to the next modules. But there's good reasons why this doesn't happen and why that's just not necessarily possible. But if medics can get 6 years, why can engineers? Okay, so what's your number 1 tip for success at Oxford? I'm probably not the best person to ask. For the first 2 years, my whole life was just lectures, exams, the courses I was doing, and pretty much nothing else. I was just a bit overwhelmed with all the material and just going through it really diligently. It meant that I had to sacrifice a lot of other aspects of life, which if I did it again, I probably wouldn't do as much. But then in the last 2 years, I realized that mentality was just not worth it. And I think it's actually when I removed my personal self-worth and made it distinct from the results I was getting that I actually started to enjoy the course and didn't focus so much on the grades. and how well I was doing, but just that I was understanding things and grades taking a sort of lesser priority. And it was after that, in the next 2 years, in my final 2 years at Oxford, that I really just took a lot of pressure off myself and did a little bit less work, but still getting quite good results, which I was happy with, but also still enjoying the rest of the university experience, which everyone always talks about being the best years in their life. How close is your campus to the city? The thing about the Oxford campus is it is the city and the university. So colleges and libraries and sort of university buildings are scattered within the town, and there's no clear line where the university starts and where the town ends. And so everything is mixed up. And that's the beautiful part of it, that you're a student at the university and you study there, but then you're also a member of this really wonderful town. How do you like the area? So beautiful. Oxford is so beautiful. I'd say it's probably the most beautiful town in England. There is just so much history there, and if you're a tourist, there's so much to do. While I was there as a student, I just explored whenever I could, and the best part of it for me was that even though you're in this historical place with so much beautiful architecture and history, and there's so many books to read, libraries to go to, just within a 7-minute run from the center, you are in the fields filled with horses running along the river. It's just the best combination of countryside and being part of a town. Okay, is your college cliquey? I went to St. John's College, and colleges can be generally quite cliquey at Oxford. But to be honest, I didn't really feel that at St. John's. Everyone knows each other. It's not the biggest college. And so you get to know pretty much every face in the college. And that's a wonderful thing, to be able to see someone in the college and know them and smile at them and have a conversation. And so I think John's, just because it wasn't that big and everyone lives there for all their years at the college, you do form very strong relationships with people, and everyone's super friendly there. So I think other colleges can be, although I don't know for sure, but St. John's, in my opinion, definitely was not cliquey. Yeah, everyone's just super chilled out, super friendly, super nice. Is your college diverse? So yeah, I would say the uni is less diverse than some schools I've been to, but then more diverse than other schools I've been to. The college specifically, I think, reflects that as well. But then I think St. John's prides itself on really promoting diversity. And yeah, I think a lot of the colleges do, but with all the statistics about John's, I think you can see that they're really trying and working on it and doing their job. Describe the best party you've been to at Oxford. Now, Oxford isn't very known for its parties. I really love them personally. No matter what party, just being at a party once a month is a sort of blessing in and of itself. At other universities where parties happen most nights of the week, I guess it gets tiring, but at Oxford and at John specifically, everyone looked forward to parties. They were super hyped up and everyone was really excited about them because it's the one night off they took that week. And so everyone's super smiley, super happy, and yeah, just enjoying themselves. I'd say most of the parties were just, yeah, super fun. Okay, where could you find me on a typical weekend at Oxford? So for me, my weeks were quite intense. I had a lot of contact hours, and in later years, a lot of lab work and things like this. But generally the weekends were a bit more relaxed for me. So I liked working in the mornings in a coffee shop in the center, just so that it wasn't as intense as a library. And I just loved listening to other people's conversations in the coffee shop, to be honest. There was a bunch of professors and researchers that would walk in and have these pretty crazy conversations. But yeah, it was just a nice place to do work and treat myself to a coffee every weekend. But then other than that, in the afternoons and evenings, especially, it was sunny, I'd probably be playing a football game for the college team, or just playing tennis with a friend, or in the gym. Okay, how would you describe the community at Oxford? I'd say it's a very wholesome community, actually, a lot different to school. Everyone is super, super interesting, and everyone is super interested in you as well. So yeah, great community. Okay, what's the typical class size? So in engineering, this varied a little bit. In lectures in the first 2 years, you'd get the whole cohort of students coming into every lecture. So probably about 150, 160 students. But then in third and fourth years, because you're all taking different modules, I'd say probably about 20 to 30 people per lecture. But then what was consistent through the entire degree was these tutorials, or sort of homework sessions, where you'd have 2 or 3 students max with a professor going through the tutorial sheets or homeworks from the lectures. And we had about 2 of these every week. So quite chill lectures, but then super intense tutorials, because yeah, there's just nowhere to hide. The professor can see on your sheet if you've done the work, and you go up to the board and write solutions. So yeah, definitely nowhere to hide there. But lectures were a bit more relaxed. What's your favorite Oxford tradition? Now, the ones I can remember, I think Some of my favorites were May Day, where you wake up at 5 or 6 a.m. and the choir sings in front of the chapel, or you go to the main bridge in Oxford and you watch one of the choirs from a college sing at the top of the college on the bridge. Now, I'm not sure if it's Magdalene. Yeah, I think it might be Magdalene. And yeah, it's just really funny how people usually party the night before. And so there's a massive group of people that have been out the whole night, and then also families that have just come to watch this. So yeah, it's a weird mix of people. But then I'd say my favorites would be Town and Gown, where the university students run against the people from the town of Oxford in a 10K race, which is always very cool to get a mix between university students and people from the town. Okay, what's the food like at Oxford? I don't know what it's like at other colleges. I didn't really eat much in other colleges, but at St. John's, it was incredible. Rumor has it there was a Michelin star chef in our kitchen, and I fully believe that because the food was so good. Some people would complain, but overall, I'd eat 3 meals a day at college: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And yeah, no complaints. Such good food. Really liked it. Did you have a favorite study spot on campus? I'd say probably in my last year was when I found my favorite study spot. It was the new science library that just got built. But before that, I really enjoyed the Western Library. The whole sort of routine around it, not being allowed to take your bag up and just having to lock everything away and just literally taking your notes upstairs. The whole ritual of it just meant that I could really focus in on the work, and I just go in there, bang out the work, and then leave. But yeah, the Radcam, also one of my favorite study spots. How would you rate the professors? So obviously it's Oxford. Professors are really good at what they do, but they do have a lot on their plate. They're there not just to teach students, but to do their own research. And so time with them, even though you get quite a lot of it in their tutorials and things, they are quite hard on you because they value their own time and they value your time. So they don't beat around the bush. They get to the point with things. And if you do bad, they will tell you, and then you'll do better next time. But all in all, great professors. Yeah, I loved every single one of them. So what's the workload like? So yeah, the workload is tough, and there is just so much of it. It's never ending. If you're expecting to get into Oxford and breeze through it, then you're going to be very deeply disappointed, because it's there to challenge even the brightest minds. And yeah, no one that I know ever found it easy. But the nice thing about it is just it's so rewarding. There's so much work, but then finishing that work and maybe getting a good result, it just makes you so happy. And the best part is there's so many opportunities to feel this reward just because there's so much work. So it's good and bad in a way. But yeah, if you want to be in the best university to learn something, then it won't be easy and you have to put in the work. Do you get a lot of homework? For each set of lectures, we get a tutorial sheet, which is just a homework sheet with about 10 questions to answer. A tutorial sheet is for every set of 4 lectures. And we have around 2 of these sheets every week. So you can do the maths on how many lectures we have, but the tutorial sheets themselves take no less than 10 hours to complete, and usually quite a lot more. Is it easy to meet people and make friends at Oxford? Yeah, so easy. There are so many opportunities to make friends there. Everyone has such different interests. There's chess clubs, drama societies, music groups, just, yeah, whatever you like to do, there's someone who likes to do that as well. So super easy to make friends. What was your favorite thing about the college? Yeah, as I said before, the sense of community. Everyone can live there for the whole 3 or 4 years of their degree. And so you do end up just knowing every face around college, and it's, yeah, so nice. The staff there are amazing. You end up going out with the staff and the students, and yeah, everyone mixes into this one big family, which sounds a bit, but yeah, it's definitely true. St. John's, one big family. I loved it there. Did you like your roommates at St. John's? Yeah, legendary roommates. In all my years, I just had great roommates. These are some of my closest friends in life now. They're just amazing people. What's the social scene like at Oxford? The social scene, again, I have nothing to compare it to. I didn't go to any other university. But the social scene, from what I've seen, is just absolutely huge. You will never not have something to go to instead of doing your work. And what will end up happening is that you will end up missing quite a lot of the social events because of the work. But yeah, there's never not something to do. Do you think Oxford students have a good work-life balance? Mostly. People are sort of calendar schedule gods, and they juggle 15 different things. It's like they have more than 24 hours in a day, or maybe they don't sleep. But yeah, people seem to balance things very well. But then you do occasionally see people, or you yourself, just fall into this unhealthy habit of just zoning in on work and just cutting everything else out. But it's usually for quite short periods of time when you really need to catch up. But yeah, it's the people you don't see that may have more worrying work-life balances. But yeah, on the whole, everyone knows themselves and how they work best. And most people there have quite a good sense of this and balance their work and life pretty well, I'd say. Are there any unique classes you've taken? Yeah, I've taken some pretty unique classes. The way I did my degree was just what sounded interesting and what I found fun. And so I've taken classes in biomineralization, how bones and teeth form, water and waste management. Some really unusual ones that I saw and was like, oh, that could be quite interesting. And the best part is just walking into a lecture with no clue about this subject, and then a professor that has their whole career in biomineralization of the bones just spill their passion, and you just sit there and absorb it. I've taken some quite unique classes, and yeah, I've enjoyed every single one of them. Do you feel like your education at Oxford prepared you for the real world? So yeah, there's kind of two levels to this. On a sort of skills and connections level, yeah, super valuable. You get to know so many cool people, introduced to so many employers that are looking for Oxford students or students that, in my case, did engineering. But then the course itself lends itself even more to being prepared for the world, because the engineering course at Oxford is quite specific, where so much is based on the theory and deriving different concepts from literally from zero. And so you leave Oxford and you enter this world where you understand how things are going on. And the funny part is you leave Oxford with more questions than you came into it. But yeah, that's just because you understand how fascinating and complex everything is. And yeah, if anything, Oxford just grows your sort of curiosity to discover the world. At least it was for my case in engineering. What's the most challenging part about being an Oxford student? Yeah, just balance. Balance is hard to get. Work, relationships, social life. You just have to get good at balancing these things and setting your priorities straight. And that can be quite tough sometimes. What's the coolest project you worked on? So yeah, I've done a few really cool projects in my time at Oxford. You start doing projects in your third and fourth year. So in your third year, you have this group project. And then in your fourth year, you have this master's project, which is just by yourself with a professor supervising you. So in my third year, I actually took a group project on lab-grown chicken from cells. And this project opened my eyes to what an engineering project was, because in our report, we covered everything from researching how to seed and culture these cells and which bioreactors to use, what conditions to use, all the way to planning the economics of the entire thing. So making a profit and loss sheet, making discounted values for things in the future, thinking about all the cost of the equipment, very holistic exposure to what a project is. That actually made me really excited to do more group projects in the future. I should probably make a video about these projects, going through the reports and things, because yeah, super insightful. And I learned so much through them. And then in fourth year, you have this big master's thesis. In my opinion, probably the best project I've ever worked on. I chose to work on the characterization of fire tornadoes. The amount of fire tornadoes I've made, I'm very lucky to still have my eyebrows. But yeah, I learned even more from that project, just working by myself rather than in a group, and having the whole world of questions, to pick specific questions to ask and research. And yeah, just take it in any direction I wanted to. So if you want a video on that as well, that could be pretty useful for anyone that wants to see what an Oxford engineering master's project is like. Is there a lot of university loyalty? Yes, there's so much loyalty. I walk around London sometimes, I walk around different countries sometimes, and people wearing Oxford t-shirts, tracksuits. Yeah, there's so much loyalty, because every Oxford student understands every other Oxford student in a way, just because they've gone through similar things that probably not too many people can relate to. So yeah, there's a lot of loyalty to the university. And then in sports especially, yeah, Oxford goes crazy. A bunch of my friends played for the university football or rugby, and yeah, we'd go to their games, and just, yeah, there's so much support in sports, but also other things. What's the athletic culture like? Yeah, it's pretty tough. I have a bunch of friends that played university football, rugby, hockey, things like this. I actually played university water polo and volleyball for a term. But yeah, that got way too intense, and I couldn't really balance things very well. I focused on the work instead. But I'd say sports at Oxford is quite a good standard. Probably not like the USA, but pretty high. Other opportunities to join clubs or organizations? Yeah, around every corner. If you ask me, probably too many. How do students spend their free time? Mostly eating and sleeping. No, probably parties, societies, sports, the theater, music events. Yeah, there's so many things you can do, and how you choose to spend your own time. You'll be swamped with things to do. There's just so much to do. Is it hard to balance extracurriculars and academics? Yes, but you get very good at it eventually. What's the most unusual tradition at Oxford? There's this egg and spoon race, I think, that happens one early morning in the year at one of the colleges. But I'd say probably the one that affected me was wearing different colored flowers for each of my exams. Yeah, there's a whole tradition about what color flower you wear in each exam, which on top of actually knowing the material for the exam, you have to remember which color flower to use. But yeah, that's probably the one that comes to mind first. Do you have access to research opportunities? Yes, probably not in your sort of early years unless you really look for them. But for engineering, at least, you have access to research opportunities in your third and fourth year, as I said, with the projects. And these are in third year, a group project. And then in fourth year, it's a sort of solo project, which is supervised by a professor. But yeah, if you really want to, you can do summer research work at the university. In my first year, I actually did summer research work at Imperial College. But there's also opportunities at Oxford in all your years you study there. Research groups are always looking for students to help out. And yeah, it's a great way to get exposed to that sort of community and see if that's something you're interested in, something you want to do after your degree as well. So yeah, really useful experience doing research. Is there a lot of pressure to succeed? Yes. Yeah. First of all, most people at Oxford put tons of pressure on themselves. Then there's the professors and the college you're at, which ideally wants to maintain its academic ranking within Oxford. So you do report to professors and they make sure you're on top of things. And then any other external pressures which sort of may get to you at some point, or you may avoid, like having to get certain grades for jobs or internships or things like this. But the biggest thing is you just learn to deal with it. It was quite a hard and long lesson for me. Pressure from professors, just not seeing the whole picture of things and just not seeing that maybe you are trying your best, and them convincing you that it's still not enough. That sort of pressure got to me. And so the biggest pressure to alleviate is just pressure from yourself. And in my case, disconnecting my personal sort of self-worth from my academic performance to an extent. Okay, how often did you go home? So I went home every 8 weeks. So the terms at Oxford are 8 weeks long, and then you get a 6-week holiday. So I would not go home during term. I'd just go home during the holidays, which were quite long themselves. So there was no point going home during the term because there was just so much work going on anyway. And yeah, lots of contact hours, and just worked better for my focus to stay at college. What's the university layout like? Yeah, Oxford is super compact, very walkable. Nothing is more than a 5-minute walk. Whoever designed the town, great designer. Did you have a favorite coffee shop nearby? Yeah, as I said, I would like to work on the weekends in a coffee shop. The one I used to go to was Cafe Nero's in the Blackwell's bookshop. And then there was also another one across the road called Missing Bean, which had really nice donuts. What's the best place to eat at Oxford? So yeah, there's a stereotype that St. John's College students only eat from the falafel van outside of St. John's. But to be honest, yeah, I ate there a lot, and it was so good. So yeah, if you're ever in Oxford, try Najjar's falafel wraps. They have so many toppings, so many flavors. Yeah, good guys. And then also ramen culture, just across the road from St. John's. Best ramen I've ever had. Yeah, I'd treat myself to a meal with friends, probably once every 2 or every 3 weeks. Yeah, just to keep morale up and things. Are there any famous alumni you look up to? Yeah, Rowan Atkinson studied engineering at Oxford, and he's just, yeah, really funny guy. There's so many notable alumni, so many people to choose from. But yeah, my favorite one, definitely Rowan Atkinson. Okay, what's the most challenging module you've taken? Now, I'd say at Oxford for engineering, there's 2 types of challenging modules. Ones that are voluntary and ones that are involuntary. For the first 2 years, you don't have a choice what you study. And within engineering, I've never really enjoyed electrical and electronic engineering that much. But for 2 years, I had to do modules in it and pass those before I could start choosing modules in my third and fourth year. So there were modules that were challenging that I didn't really care for too much, but I had to invest time in them and work on them to get the grades to pass to the next year. But then in third and fourth year, you get challenging modules, but you choose them. So it's just a different type of challenge where it's hard. This stuff is hard. You've chosen it because you find it interesting and you enjoy the subject. And so some of these modules were things like aerothermal engineering or jet propulsion, thermal engineering. These were all pretty challenging and conceptually quite difficult at some points. But they're modules I chose because I enjoyed them. And so, yeah, it's a different type of thing when you choose your own suffering, not really suffering, but conscious choices that you enjoy and they're rewarding for some reason to you. And so you don't mind as much if they're challenging. But yeah, definitely a bunch of challenging modules. Okay, what's the best class you've taken? For me, it was probably in my 4th year. My last year, it was sustainable energy, but not from a perspective of policies or anything like this. It really dove into the physics and design of different renewable energy sources that we've developed over the years. So we had this 4-course module on each of the big 4 renewable energy resources: solar, wind, hydroelectric, and then what was the last one? And then carbon capture. And yeah, it was just super interesting, like learning in wind energy why all wind turbines have 3 blades and not 4, 5, or 6. Just really getting down into the physics. So if air and water are so similar, why aren't the turbines for hydroelectric dams similar to the wind turbines? Because air and water aren't that similar. And sort of things like this. That's the part of Oxford that I love the most, is just knowing something makes sense. And even if something doesn't make sense, then through 4 hours of lectures, just getting really stuck into the maths of it. Yeah, super fun. That was probably my favorite lecture course. Okay, how do you usually get around campus? So yeah, I mostly walked. I had a bike in my 1st year, but that got stolen, so I just walked everywhere. Okay, do you have a favorite season at Oxford? Yeah, I love summer. Summers in Oxford are super, super nice when it's sunny. When it's raining, not that nice, but when it's sunny, me and my friend used to go to the grass courts of St. John's and we'd play tennis for hours. Yeah, I love the summer at Oxford. Are there any study abroad opportunities? Yes. Within engineering, there is a study abroad opportunity for your 4th year where you can have an exchange with the university in Singapore or Princeton in America. It's quite competitive, and you have to put in a pretty good application and be ranked quite highly in the year. But yeah, these are opportunities that are all open to 3rd year students for the 4th year. And then also within colleges, we had exchanges to university in Italy, Munich, and Switzerland. What's college life like? Yeah, very social, lots of activities, lots of events. There's people to schedule guest dinners or formal dinners. Every sort of aspect of college life has a representative, and they put so much work to schedule things, so much to do within college as well. How are the facilities on campus? Yeah, Oxford has great facilities, great libraries, so many of them. St. John's specifically just has so much money. It's the richest college in Oxford, and you can really tell that by the facilities it has. And that's one of the reasons I applied. So they have a squash court in college. They have 2 gyms and 1 gym just for rowing. The new gym they just built as I was leaving was insane. Like the machines all new. We had the crest of the college on all the wood around the gym. Great facilities. Tennis courts a 5-minute walk away that are just for St. John's students. Football pitches, rugby pitches. Yeah, so much stuff, so many good facilities. And yeah, that's one big reason why I actually applied to St. John's. Do you feel like you've grown as a person since starting at Oxford? Yeah, absolutely. It challenges you and changes you in ways you probably never expected. And I could talk about this at length, but I'll save you the time. What's the hardest part about applying to Oxford? The whole process is just long and quite tiring, and you don't know if you'll get in. And everything happens during the time when you're meant to revise in school, and there's a UCAS personal statement, and then there's the admissions exam, and then there's interviews. So it just takes months and months. But in the end, if you get in, it's super worth it. And even if you don't, at least you've tried and it's still worth it. What's one piece of advice you'd give to future applicants? One piece of advice I'd give to future applicants is just really make sure that your subject is something that you love doing, and you're not doing it for your parents, or you're not doing it for a potential job at the end of it. You're just doing it for the subject itself, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that will help you through to the end. Because as you go through the years, all of these other priorities are sort of stripped back, and you're left with just your determination to complete the course, which is led by your passion for the subject. And yeah, all the people that are left at the end of their degree just really like their subject. So if you do have the love for your subject, definitely try getting in. And if you don't, then try find it. How do you celebrate big milestones on campus? I don't know if they're very big ones, but yeah, whenever we had a good week, we just book a formal dinner together. There were formal dinners 3 times a week in college, and yeah, super affordable. You just dress up nicely and go to a nice 3-course dinner for about £5. And then twice a term, there were also these guest dinners where you could invite guests. So various dinners you can go to and just enjoy some downtime with friends while having a nice meal. Is there a specific landmark on campus you love? Yeah, obviously the Radcam, very famous building. But then my favorite is the engineering building. I think it's the tallest building in Oxford and probably the ugliest. But everyone says it's the best to actually be studying in there because at least you don't have to look at it. Whereas from everywhere else, you have to look at it. It's not the prettiest building, but it's super practical. Like the stairways in it are super well designed to just fit the flow of students, and yeah, everything is great. Like so much cool architecture in Oxford, just grand buildings, but also so much intricate detail. So many cool landmarks. Do you get enough sleep as an Oxford student? Yes. For me, it was non-negotiable. I would always get 8 hours of sleep. There are very few times past my second year. Maybe in the first 2 years I didn't get as much sleep, but past my second year, there are very few times where I compromised on 8 hours of sleep. And the very few times I did, it was literally the day before my third year project deadline. I don't really negotiate on sleep, and you shouldn't either. What's the music scene like on campus? Yeah, it's vibrant. There's a mix of student bands, a cappella groups, concerts, so many things to go see, so many people to watch. St. John's had its own auditorium, and we had insane sort of violin soloists and quartets coming in for absolutely free for all students. These world-class concert pianists, everything. And that was one of my big forms of downtime, is just getting a little free ticket, going and listening to an hour of music, either by myself or with friends. Do you feel like Oxford prepared you for life after graduation? Yeah, definitely. I think a similar question came up, but yeah, both academically and through networking opportunities and just through being somewhere for 4 years and growing up into your 20s. Yeah, Oxford is a great place to grow into your 20s. And I think it definitely prepared me for life after university. Okay, next question. Are there opportunities to collaborate with professors? So before the third and fourth year, probably not unless you do a summer research internship. But in third and fourth year, yeah, for sure. There is so much opportunity to collaborate with your project supervisors in third year, a lot of contact hours with them, and they're always open for questions. Then in fourth year, my supervisor is probably one of the 5 people I spent most time with that year. We became quite good friends, or at least I thought we did. He was so helpful, so kind, just a fountain of knowledge. And together we just worked on this project of making and researching fire tornadoes for an entire year in a lab. And yeah, it was a great experience. What's the most inspiring thing about Oxford? What's the most inspiring thing about Oxford? Definitely the people that end up being your friends. It's pretty crazy that you're surrounded by these just really smart people. And the atmosphere there is, I think, what carries everyone through it. It's just such a positive atmosphere, and everything is geared towards pushing you forward and pushing you to be the best version of yourself in your subject and in other aspects of life in such a positive way. And living in Oxford is just an environment that is so unique and so cool. And I think it's something everyone should experience, and it's a bit unfair that everyone doesn't get to experience it, but that's what I think also makes it unique. Do you think the Oxford name opens doors? Yes, absolutely. Oxford is not just a university, it's a globally recognized brand. And when someone sees you've gone to Oxford, it comes with so many positive connotations that without even needing to open your mouth, people just think you're smart. And yeah, that comes at the price of all the work you put in at Oxford. And it doesn't have that reputation for no reason. So yeah, the Oxford name definitely opens doors. What's one thing you wish you knew before starting at Oxford? So I wish I just knew what I was walking into. I decided after my GCSEs that I wanted to apply. And so for most of my A-levels, my goal in life was just to get into Oxford. But then you realize when you get there, that's not the end of the road. That's just the beginning of the next road. And so I just wish I was a bit more prepared. But then again, you can't be more prepared than you are. A-levels are meant to prepare you for it, and they prepare you best for it. But still, it's not enough. But the nice thing is that no one else is as prepared as they can be either. So yeah, getting used to the work and sort of the content is quite a challenge, but you do it eventually. And yeah, you're in it with all your other friends on the course. So it's not as bad as it first seems. What's your favorite Oxford memory? I don't know if this is my favorite memory, but this just sums up what Oxford is like being a student there and feeling quite small in such a sort of prestigious and world-renowned place. But I remember in college, we had this one professor. He was really young. He was just a world-class mathematician. And one week he received the Fields Medal, and there was this big portrait of him put up. But I never really saw him around college. But one day I was buying some parts for a bicycle I was building, and I was walking with half a bike down this random street in Oxford, and he walked past me, and he looked at me and smiled, almost as if he recognized me. But yeah, to think that there was a Fields medalist at my college who recognized me just on the street with my bicycle is just an insane thing to think about. So I think that's one of these moments where you just realize, wow. And I remember I just went back and told all my family, and no one knew what the Fields medal was, but it was a pretty cool experience. Okay, did you ever feel imposter syndrome? Yeah, all the time. It does fade over the years, but in that sort of environment with all these people around you, it's hard not to have it. And it's a super humbling feeling going from being the best student in your school to being just about average. And it's a big lesson that most people at Oxford have to learn. And it's good that they learn it at Oxford. Otherwise, you'd have very big egos walking around the world. But yeah, everyone has imposter syndrome. It's very rare that you feel like you 100% belong at Oxford, but it's all part of the journey. And finally, last question. In your opinion, do you think everyone watching this video should apply to Oxford? Yes, because why not? If it's something you want to do, then why not? But I wouldn't recommend it to everyone because some people have a really tough time at Oxford. Even if you get in, even if you pass everything, some people have a really hard time. And it's detrimental to their health and being more than it is sort of positive to their academics and their career aspirations or anything else. But mostly, yes, everyone should apply because it's an experience that is comparable to nothing else in the world. And if you really enjoy your courses at school, your subjects at school, and you think that you might continue to enjoy them for the next 3 or 4 years at university, then yeah, definitely apply to Oxford. It will change your life. And I don't know how it will change, but it would definitely change it for the better. And there's so much learning happening at Oxford, and only about half of it is academic. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. It's probably going to be quite a long video, but as I've been getting more and more of these questions, I've realized, yeah, maybe it would be helpful to clarify things or just give a bit more insight about Oxford or St. John's College in general. But yeah, as I said at the start, if you have any more questions, then feel free to DM me on Instagram or just comment down below. And if you like this video, then you probably will like this one where I talk about the 3 biggest lessons I've learned after graduating from Oxford. If you enjoyed the video, leave a little like, turn on your notifications and subscribe. And yeah, ask me anything in the comments below. I read and reply to every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.